Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the LCBO YouTube channel. I am tonight's host, Erin Henderson. I'm the founder and chief sommelier at the Wine Sisters. Tonight, we are talking all about rosé. In fact, it's Rosé 101. So do get your questions ready, type them into the comments, and we will be sure to make sure that we get them answered pronto. Let me introduce to you my colleague and very good friend, Emily Pearce. Emily, hello.
Hello, how are you today?
I am doing so well, and I'm doing even better because we're about to get into some 6 dazzling rosés.
I'm so excited. I love this category. I love rosé wine. We have an incredible lineup today, and I can't wait to taste through them all.
Okay, well, before we do, let everyone, and by the way, we've got people tuning in as far away as London, Greenwich. Hello, London. We, of course, are coming from Ontario, Toronto, Ontario, Canada is where we're located. And the LCBO, of course, is all over Ontario. But I'm so delighted that we're getting people. The beauty of the internet. Who would have thunk it? People beaming in from all over the world. So welcome. Please pour yourselves a glass of rosé. Enjoy it responsibly. Before we get into it, Emily, tell us a little bit about yourself and why are you here, Emily?
Absolutely. Well, I'm here to try some delicious rosé, but beyond that, so yes, I am the founder and president of Femmes du Vin. It's Canada's largest women in wine organization. We are a registered not-for-profit, and we focus on education, mentorship, and scholarship for all women in wine. You can check us out at femmesduvin.org. I am also a sommelier, a writer, a little bit of consulting, working towards my Master of Wine and my Master Sommelier designation. So a little bit of everything, I guess you could say.
I'd say a glutton for punishment is what I'd say about that.
A little bit, yes.
It sounds like you need a drink. So let's get to it, shall we? Before we dive in, I do want to thank everyone for tuning in. I'm Erin. This is Emily. And we are, on behalf of the LCBO and our trade partners, we want to thank you for joining us. A reminder that you can ask your questions live by typing them into the comments and we will get back to you. And a reminder that for tonight, if you are sipping along with us, please enjoy responsibly, both for the current COVID situation as well as when it comes to drinking and driving. Please do enjoy responsibly. And I will let you know one other thing that I will remind you throughout the show is that all of the wines that we are trying tonight are available at the LCBO, which you can, of course, do in-person shopping, finally, but you can do your in-person shopping. You also can order online, and these wines are also available for curbside pickup. So lots of opportunity to get your rosé fix.
Yes, the world is your oyster.
The world is your rosé. Now, what would you like to try first? What would you like to try first, Emily?
Well, I thought we would dive right into Italy.
Let's go to Italy. Viva Italia.
Absolutely.
I'm hearing all kinds of horns outside, so I'm suspecting there's something happening with the Euros. But of course, I don't know what that would be, but whatever. Okay, all right. So what have we got? We've got Falinari Pinot Grigio, available for $11.95 at the LCBO. Okay, my first question to you, Emily, Miss Femme de Vin. A pink Pinot Grigio. Tell me everything.
Right? Who would have thought it? Because I know when we think of Pinot Grigio, we really think about white wine, still dry white wine, right? This is what we put in our glass, especially in the summertime. But I mean, as we can all see, we have this beautiful rosé color here, and this Pinot Grigio is also known as Pinot Gris, and you can get color from this grape with a little bit longer skin contact. There is some color actually in the skins of this wine. So where the white wine, they just press the grapes in, let the juice flow. This has a little bit of time in contact, and that's where this beautiful color comes from. So yes, absolutely, Pinot Grigio rosé.
You caught me with my mouth full. But you know what I love about it is that the rosé is almost the same shade as my rosé top. It's like I planned it. It's like I planned it.
I love it.
Okay, so I'm going to dive right into our first question then, which comes from Renee L. So thank you very much, Renee, who wrote in for this. And you asked for rosé recommendations for afternoon gatherings. And so I think, Emily, that this one, Falinari, is a really good contender. You know, the crispness, the brightness, that upfront juicy fruit full of watermelon, yummy bits. I have been, if you go to the Wine Sisters Instagram, you know that I am loving aperitivo, or what the French might call apéro. I am loving this kind of situation. Here in Canada, we might call it happy hour or cocktail hour. But the beautiful Italian art of aperitivo, where you have a few little snacks before you move on with your night, or maybe you have some frito misti, or you might have, a little bit of prosciutto and melon. I think that this is actually, for you, Renee, I think that this is a really juicy, thirst quenching. Here in Ontario, it's been muggy, sweaty, hot. I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm not saying I'm not here for it, but I think that this is a real thirst quencher. And I think that this wine will lead you from that aperitivo afternoon gathering situation right into dinner. And we've got a great dinner pairing for you, thanks to foodanddrink.com, the LCBO's fabulous website. You know what we paired this with for dinner tonight? We have paired this with a garlic scape. Ooh. Oh, I know. And garlic scapes are in season right now. So sometimes it's so difficult to figure out what to do with them. But here we've got this carbonara pasta with the garlic scape paired with the falinari. I'm saying that's a winner.
Absolutely. It looks delicious. And you can sort of start with this wine, with this little aperitivo, and then just roll right into it. And this wine is so crowd pleasing as well, right? I think you could put this wine in front of so many of your different friends or family, socially distanced, of course. And it's a real crowd pleaser.
It is a crowd pleaser. And you want to know what else is a crowd pleaser? Let's try the wine let's go to France, shall we? Shall we go to the next one?
I love this, yes.
This is fantastic. Now, this one is our next wine. It's actually called Gris Blanc from the I can't even say it, but from Gerard Bertrand, a fabulous winemaker who just comes up with some beautiful things. You see Gerard Bertrand making gorgeous reds, whites, of course, rosés, mostly in that sort of Languedoc region of southern France. But Emily, my next question to you, what the heck is Gris Blanc?
Great question. So as you know, that this is a very well-known producer, always making very benchmark wines. I think this is a great example of it. This wine is actually made from Grenache. So you see Grenache grown all over the south of France. It loves that warm Mediterranean climate. It loves those hot, sunny days. And this is a great example of a beautiful rosé that you could make with Grenache. You can really make a rosé with really any color red grape. So absolutely delicious.
Well, I'm going to actually ask you about that because Nicole just wrote in. Thank you for the question, Nicole. Nicole just says she'd love to know about the depth of color of rosé and if that would tell us anything about the level of dryness, sweetness, taste, etc. Now, I think this is really interesting because when we compare these two, and as we go through the series, Nicole, over this next 30 minutes or so, you'll see the variations of color. But these are, they are barely there pink. Like they are so pale. And Grenache actually can make some very deeply colored red wines. So, Emily, let me pick your brain once more on behalf of Nicole. How can we end up with such pale wines? And as we'll move through the lineup right through to darker, how does that?
Yeah, so great question. There are a couple ways that you can make rosé wines. One of the most common ways is sort of the direct press or skin maceration. That sounds very, very complicated, but it's not. So when you have a grape that has a skin that has color on it, whether it's a light colored skin like our Pinot Gris or Pinot Grigio, or Grenache, which has a bit of a darker red skin, the longer you keep the juice on the skin, the darker it's going to get. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to be sweet or dry, but sometimes color may indicate some things, like perhaps it will impart different flavors. It will impart maybe some body, maybe some texture, right, from the skin contact. But it's really, it can be different things for different wines. So I think this is a great example of a beautifully lightly colored wine that has a lot of great textures and flavors.
Absolutely. And I think, Languedoc, that sort of southern France kind of area where this is where we'll find Provence, of course, the absolute motherland of rosé. But I think it's absolutely fantastic. So
delicious.
It's delicious. And what we're pairing now, I had this first talk about fusion. So even though this is a French rosé, I had this at an Italian I was going to say Italian bistro, but I guess it's more of an Italian trattoria here in Toronto. And we were having it with prosciutto pizza, and we were having it with the arancinis, and we were having it with, the salamis. And it was brilliant because of this bright crispness. My mouth is still watering from that backbone of acidity. It can go really, really nicely. But here, thanks to foodandrink.com, we've actually paired it with a really lovely chicken and summer vegetable curry. What do you think of this pairing, Emily?
You know what? I love it. And I think this speaks to the versatility of rosé. As you're saying, I felt like I was on that patio with you when you were talking about the pizza and the arancini. I was like, oh yes, I want to be there. Absolutely. But the versatility of rosé, we have a great curry here. And what's so interesting about rosé, depending on what you're eating with, so some more adventurous dishes such as this, it's going to pick up all of these other more subtle nuances in the wine and really elevate them and bring them out of the glass for you. So this is such a great example of the versatility. I think that it would be absolutely perfect with a load of beautiful fresh vegetables with this curry on a nice, perhaps night out.
Oh, you know what? People will have those shirts, rosé all day. I am rosé all year. And yeah. For me, you sit around, you have a nice little cheese board. In fact, Renee also asked about some munchie ideas. And I think when you start pairing your rosés with some nice, if you're in France, do some beautiful cheese gougere. If you're here in Ontario, some local cheeses and some great homemade bread. Who's not making homemade bread? There's a lot of, I love that food flexibility for those very reasons that you were talking about.
Absolutely.
We've got a couple more that we're going to try. And now we're going to go to Spain. We're going to go to Rioja. So this is the third biggest, and I don't know if people know this, but the three biggest wine producing countries. First, we have Italy, then we have France. Italy and France duke it out for first spot. I'm not really a stickler for these kinds of things, but the latest research would have told me that it's Italy, then France, and then finally, rounding out the trifecta is Spain. And here we've got Muga from Rioja.
Delicious.
Delicious. We've got and it's only $15.95, so well under that $20 price point. Really, really affordable. I should let everyone know, if you are just tuning in, thank you for joining us on behalf of the LCBO and our trade partners. My name's Erin Henderson. I'm the founder and the chief sommelier at the Wine Sisters, here with Emily Pearce, who is the founder and president of Femmes du Vin. And I want you all to know that we are trying 6 different rosés tonight that you can find very easily at the LCBO. Please enjoy them responsibly, but you can either buy them in the store the old-fashioned way, or you can order them online, and they are available for curbside pickup. So back to the Muga and our Rioja. What grape is this?
You know what? I don't like to play favorites, but my goodness gracious, this is one of the sweethearts in the lineup for me. Oh my gosh. So this is Tempranillo. We are in Spain, and it tastes like Spain. That terroir is just coming right through. And I love how this wine it's much different than the first 2 wines, isn't it? It's sort of more savory. And the fruits are quite different, and I love it. Oh, delicious.
And I find that there's a really nice body to this as well, so that we're starting to almost creep into something that's a little bit, not super weighty. I mean, let's not get crazy here. We're not talking about, a full-bodied Shiraz by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm sensing the weight is creeping up. There's a little bit more of that.
There's some breadth in this wine and a little more texture in this wine. And I think that those savory notes are also, give it a little bit of shoulders, doesn't it?
It does. And that means that it also, again, going back to that food flexibility, we've got a terrific idea. So when I was in Spain I miss traveling, but when I was in Spain last, and in Rioja, gorgeous region, but of course the classic dish of Spain that you're going to find everywhere, paella, that famous rice dish. Now, depending on where you are in the country, the ingredients will change either to more meat or to more seafood. But I see this going with so many different classic paella dishes, whether it's going with that spicy chorizo or that more salty ham, or even when you start getting into those rustic, earthy kind of rabbit, gamey kind of meat. But here, one of my favorite dishes to eat in Spain, and foodandrink.com, you can find these recipes, just Google, search them on the website. You can get a Spanish tortilla. This is that potato-based dish, which is so good. And then you have sheep's milk cheeses. Famously, Manchego would probably be the most famous sheep's milk cheese out of Spain. And I think that this is actually a terrific vegetarian option as well for people.
You know what? And Erin, that's such a great point, because I mean, I do eat meat from time to time, but I do, typically have a plant-based diet. And this is great. On a Tuesday night, if you want something light and fresh, I mean, isn't that wonderful that you can do something that, isn't necessarily meat heavy? And I love the Manchego, sort of that saltiness, and then it brings out that sort of earthiness in the wine. Delicious.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. And I think that most of these questions, once again, everybody, if you're just tuning in, thank you for joining us. I'm Erin, and this is Emily on behalf of the LCBO and our trade partners. Please, if you have any questions about how rosé can fit into your lifestyle, any questions about, well, anything really, ask us anything. I'm an Aquarius. I like long walks on the beach. What you can do is absolutely fabulous. You can just type them into the comments. We'll make sure we get to them for you. But we've got a couple of great questions as well that are going to come through. But I'm going to hang on to them. I'm going to hang on to them for a few seconds because I don't want to run out of time. And I want to get to our next wine, which we're going back to France. We're going back across the border. We're going over the mountains and back into France. And now we're with La Vieille Femme. So we've gone from the sheep's milk cheeses to the old roosters. What a terrific price, $12.45.
What great value. Isn't that great value? Oh,
yeah. And look how pale this is. We were talking earlier, if you're just joining us, we were talking earlier about the different colors of rosé and how some can be darker and some can be lighter. That, of course, depends on the grapes that are used. Because, Emily, you were saying, depending on the region and whatever grapes are grown in that particular region, that will have an effect on the color, as well as how long that maceration time or how long that clear juice sits on a colored skin.
Exactly. And so, because rosé, it's come so far. It used to typically just be sort of a byproduct and not really thought of too much. So you get sort of the regional grapes and a quick crush and off you go with some rosé. And now you're seeing these beautiful, thoughtful, terroir-driven rosés in the market. And I'm so glad we circled back to France on this wine, because we did really come back to the motherland of it all, didn't we?
We did. And you know what's so great about this? I love how you say that. I mean, and you were talking, decades ago, not necessarily now. We know that Provence, Nice, the image of the woman with the big sunnies and the floppy sun hat, delicately eating her moule et frites, forgive my French accent. I try. I really try.
We know what you're saying. It's fine.
I know what I'm saying. No one else does, but I know what I'm saying. That's all that matters. Have another glass of rosé, you'll understand me just fine. But I love how these wines, the epitome, we have the Nice and we have the France, but we have all of these great little, they're so emblematic of the lifestyle. And what's so funny is that when you were saying, now they're really coming on stream, and here in North America, at least, certainly in Canada, now, wow, rosé has really gotten its own PR team. Like, you have people, I have a shirt that says rosé all day. Like, you've got people who are team rosé all the way, when it wasn't necessarily maybe always that way. But we have, you can make cocktails out of rosés. Yes. We have a great question coming here from, let me just look this up. Hang on, Catherine Denise. Thank you so much for writing this in. Catherine, you're asking about spritzers. You're asking about assuming, the rosés and what we can do with them. And there's actually a lot of flexibility with rosé. For example, on the Wine Sisters YouTube channel, we have a great video on making a rosé sangria. We've made it for a decade or more. It's absolutely fantastic. But it's a terrific way that you could use rosé for sure. But as well as with those spritzers, very easily you can make some spritzers, even especially if you were going to start getting into some off-dry styles that can replace some of that sugar.
Absolutely. And I think it's such a versatile product. I mean, again, I think sort of the genesis, and everyone remembers like the sweeter styles of the White Zinfandel, which are great and still very popular and consumed quite a bit. But If you are into more dry styles, perhaps don't put those sweeter styles out to pasture, because I've seen your recipe. It's delicious. And using that sort of sweeter style rosé. Yeah, absolutely. And it's so beautiful, because I sort of think about it. What a great way to use the product. You can put it in a beautiful glass pitcher, get some fresh fruit in there, and in a nice socially distanced in your backyard, right in the middle of the table. It's delicious. It's refreshing on a hot day. It's so refreshing. It's so lovely looking. And it sort of brings us to the food pairing for this wine, actually, because we are talking about sort of our big shared pitcher of rosé sangria.
We are. Again, these recipes are all available on foodanddrink.com. You can just search them. But this one is a terrific sharesies kind of situation.
I love this. All the vegetables platters with 3 dips.
3 different dips. And I like that we've grilled them here in this. So it gives it even a little bit more spunk to you're not just slamming out some baby carrots with some pre-made ranch. but we're showing our guests some care. And
this is much more classy, Erin. It's much more classy than that, right? So but it's gorgeous, isn't it? And you put it in the middle and everyone can enjoy it. And I love this as well. And we've talked a bit about it. We've talked about the different, we have the curry and with the more adventurous dishes, but this great, just grilled vegetables and some dips, and talk about, food pairings. They don't have to be super fancy and unapproachable. Look at this. We've got some great dips. We've got some grilled vegetables. It's fresh. It's accessible. I mean, yes, this is what food pairing's about, right?
I agree. And this is what I love about rosé too, is that it sort of is the come together for everybody. You'll always have people in camp white or camp red, people like you and I. Well, we're just far too promiscuous. We'll go anywhere. But, you'll have people who are diehards. But what rosé does is it brings everyone to the table. Yes. So regardless of your wine experience or wine knowledge, you can be new to the wine game, and you can settle in with a rosé and know that you're doing all the right things. And if you're a veteran of, longtime collector, traveled to different wine regions, whatever the case might be, you equally will kick back with a rosé, because this is the epitome of easy, elegant entertaining.
Absolutely.
And this is where, and I love those imageries of sitting in the backyard, sharesies platters, the picture of the sangria, everything, of course, minding our social P's and Q's. That's obviously, that's an obvious one. But I just think that that's absolutely fantastic. And Lorna, who just wrote in and asked about rosé being versatile, how do we pair and pick specific rosés with food, red meat, salmon? How do we do that? Well, I think a lot of the time, Lorna, when you're looking to pair, as Emily said earlier, if you're just tuning in, Emily had just finished saying that there's a tremendous versatility that comes with rosé. A lot of that is thanks to that thirst-quenching, cheek-pinching, mouth-watering acidity that's in the wine, that juiciness that comes forward, that there's a lot of, that there is a wide range, a big window of opportunity when it comes to food pairing. A lot of the time, I also like to look at the sauces and the spices more so than the protein. So you might be saying chicken, fish, or beef or whatever, but think about, are we talking the chicken curry? Are we talking, grilled chicken? Are we talking, cedar plank salmon? Or are we talking salmon tartare? The varying flavors will usually deal with the spices and the sauces. Mm-hmm. And that's what I look to for my pairings, as well as the weight of the dishes.
I love that. And, don't be shy about pairing your rosé, right? Everyone's like, it has to be this. It doesn't have to be anything. I think we were talking earlier, I said to you, one of my favorite pairings with rosé, and then it is a beef dish, and it's a nice grilled flank steak. And then you can thinly slice it and put it on a beautiful bed of arugula with a light vinaigrette. It sort of lightens the beef up a bit, and some cherry tomatoes on there, and it just pops out all the different flavors and aromas and textures in that rosé. So yeah, absolutely, beef can go with rosé, and fish can go with rosé. It's incredible. So I like the way you're thinking. Don't just don't feel that you're get pigeonholed in things.
Exactly. And worst case scenario, you don't like the pairing. But I'm a big fan of, hey, if you're with great company and you like the food and you like the wine, chances are it's going to be a great pairing. And we'll get to that because actually we had a great question from Vivian about beef, but I'm going to save Vivian's question till we get to some of those richer reds that we have waiting for us at the end, that I think that will really address her questions very well. But actually, speaking of which, maybe we should move on to the Ladybug, shall we not?
Oh, I love this wine. Let's please do so. I love this wine. Goodness.
Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be trying now the Malivoire. This is an Ontario wine in our home province, the Ladybug Rosé. This one is well under $20 as well. Such a classic bottle. If you guys are interested, if you're just tuning in, you can get all of the rosés that we are trying tonight at the LCBO. You can shop online. You can get curbside pickup. And of course, these wines are available on the shelves at the stores. So they're absolutely available. Terrific, under 20, great entertaining wines. Please do enjoy them with some social responsibility there, both for COVID as well as drinking and driving. We do want to make sure that you're safe and happy and well cared for. And of course, on behalf of the LCBO and our trade partners, thank you for joining us. My name is Erin Henderson. I'm from the Wine Sisters, and I'm here with Emily Pearce, who's from Femmes du Vin. Okay. Ladybug, I'm going to say classic Ontario rose.
I love this wine. You know what? And full disclosure, Erin, like this wine, I love this wine. And I'm an avid gardener. I love my garden. This is the wine. I love Malivoire Gamay so much. Malivoire Gamay is the wine that I take and I buy. And if I'm out in my garden in the summertime, I'm probably drinking Malivoire Gamay. So well made. What classic wine from such a great estate.
Oh, well, and I think that Malivoire, which for those of you who are located in Ontario, or if you've ever visited the Niagara region, this is in the Niagara region, but it's in what we would call Malivoire is located in what we would call the escarpment or the bench. It's closer to sort of Hamilton, I was going to say not as close to the lake, but that's not true because the lake kind of is everywhere. But it's closer to sort of the Toronto side. Anyway, moving right along. Yeah, what I like about this, notice the color here, and notice how we're getting into some of this deeper, darker color. It's almost
Is it beautiful?
Yeah, it's like a beautiful orangey coral. It's starting to come in like
gemstone to me. I just think it's absolutely beautiful. It's this gemstone color, the hue. It's vibrant and it looks so beautiful in the glass, doesn't it? Yeah,
they just updated this label. I think it was last year. But during COVID, my years and time all blended together. So it could have been 20 years ago for all I know. I think it was last year that they updated the label, and I think they've done a tremendous job. Absolutely.
It's very chic. It's very modern. I love it.
It's very chic. And what I like about this as well is that now we're also having a bit of a departure. We've got a blend of red grapes, and this color is coming from classic Ontario Cabernet Franc, I would think. There's obviously some Gamay and some Pinot Noir in here as well, but I think this deeper color is coming from that Cabernet Franc.
Absolutely. And talk about classic Ontario grapes. We have, as you were saying, we have that Gamay, Cabernet Franc, and Pinot, all grapes that do so well in this region. And I love this wine because you get that herbal, sort of beautiful, savory notes from the Cabernet Franc and this gorgeous gem-toned color. But then there's lovely cherries and strawberries and florality from the Gamay and the Pinot Noir. Like, what a well-made wine. No wonder the estate is perpetually award-winning, I would say.
Oh, absolutely. And they're known for they have a great line of rosés as well.
Oh, yes.
Not just the Ladybug, but a great line of them. And in fact, I think that the weight of this, Vivian, you were asking about having a beef dish. What would you look for? I think, Emily's example of flank steak on arugula salad, this would be so nice. There's a beautiful weight here. So I can picture having this, sinking my teeth into a gorgeous beef burger, maybe topped with some nice, blue cheese. If you wanted to do something not quite as animalistic as that, if you wanted to be a little bit more elegante in your presentation, doing an easygoing filet mignon, something really something a little bit leaner, something that doesn't have quite as much fat or protein as, let's say, a ribeye would. I think you can do this very nicely because, again, it's got that weight. But what we've paired it with tonight, thanks to foodanddrink.com, is actually pork. This one is a beautiful pork loin. It comes with a corn salsa, some watermelon. I think when you're talking about these weightier rosés, it's a slam dunk to go with your grilled or roast pork loins. Even, not that I want to talk about the fall and Thanksgiving. I mean, I almost want to slap myself. But, you know, your Thanksgiving roast turkey, you could even do, you know, like a nice salmon steak where it's got that weight and it's got that fattiness. Yeah. The acidity, the crispness of the acidity will cut through that richness. It'll be brilliant. I think would be quite
I could
good.
see this with tuna or swordfish. I love that. I mean, could you imagine if you could bring a rosé to Thanksgiving? I wonder what, you know, it would be shocking to the family, but I think you'd probably leave the hero, because it would be an amazing pairing, wouldn't it?
It would be great. And I like that. And I'm also a huge fan of juxtaposition in pairings where there's a little bit of, surprise and you know, where we start to get almost high-low pairings or things that are a little bit unexpected, because it also, if we want to talk about entertaining, it provides another talking point.
Yes.
But we could talk about this forever.
All
Everybody,
day.
once again, tuning in, please, if you have any questions, please feel free to write them into the comments, and Emily and I will get them. We'll answer you live here on the LCBO's YouTube channel, where we talk about Rosé 101 for one last wine. Again, you can get all these wines online. You can also get them from curbside pickup or in the store. But whatever you're enjoying, please enjoy it responsibly. And I thank you on behalf of the LCBO and our trade partners. My name's Erin Henderson from the Wine Sisters. This is Emily from Femmes du Vin, and we are moving. And this is Sophia.
Yeah, look at this, Erin. How beautiful is this?
Isn't this? You called this before. You called this bottle like you're at the an English parlor, an English saloon.
A salon. You know, it's elegant, isn't it?
It does, because
this is the bottle that you leave on the table, right?
It is. It is not full, mind you, but it is.
No.
Yeah, this is terrific. This is from Francis Ford Coppola's winery, very famous winery from a very famous director, named after his very famous director daughter, Sophia. And this one actually comes from Monterey County in California. But if I'm not mistaken, Francis Ford Coppola's winery is actually located in Napa. But this fruit would be from Monterey, if I'm not mistaken.
This is good.
That's the geography of that. I think that this one, again, has a little bit of power and oomph, but still that elegance. So it's not tripping over into clumsiness. We've got some beautiful elegance that's happening in this glass.
I think so. It's, you know, it's sort of this great balance. There definitely is some weight on this wine. I know you were talking about that hamburger pairing. You could absolutely put that hamburger pairing with this. This is something that is very versatile, but let us not be, you know, unclear that I could absolutely have this with a bowl of Ontario cherries, just on its own, sitting outside. Wouldn't that just be perfect? You can dress it up or dress it down.
Pick it off at the cottage. Just so great. Well, when we talk about dressing up or dressing down, we're going to dress it up a little bit thanks to foodanddrink.com. We're going to dress it up with a little bit of lobster. That was my best out of Boston accent. I don't know why I did that. Here we've got a cedar plank lobster. It's accompanied by a shaved fennel salad. And I think that shaved fennel salad is a brilliant pairing because it brings some of that anise herbal element to the wine, which I think it gives it some complexity. Once again, it's that kind of pairing that maybe you wouldn't always expect. I think a lot of people, when you think about herbaceous vegetables, you might go to a Sauvignon Blanc or you might go, you know, somewhere else. But I think that this really starts to, that juicy fruit in that rosé starts to make some fun, some playfulness in the pairings with that fennel.
I agree, because I think what's so interesting about rosé is there's so many layers. Like, I think, you know, when you first smell or you first taste it, you get that hit of fruit, and maybe it's the strawberry or the cherry, or in the case of the Muga, maybe it's a bit of tangerine peel, perhaps. But, you know, underneath you have often really beautiful floral elements, lavender, lilac, or tree blossoms. And, you know, when you're putting these savory herbal notes, you have all these different elements that kind of pop out of the wine. So be bold with your rosé pairings, because, you know, what comes back, what the glass then offers you is going to be different, and really exciting.
Well, what I like about this too, and I'm going to sort of pop that balloon because this is the most expensive of our lineup. This one is nearly $25. Everything else has been significantly under 20. But I like this because it's Deep Big Eyes. Thank you for this comment or question, Deep Big Eyes. I love that name too. It makes me want to see your deep big eyes. I like it while peering over a glass of rosé. So the question is Deep Big Eyes correct to assume that there are not many high-end vintages that are rosé, generally speaking? Well, let's talk about that and how this wine being $25, and as I was saying before, I was in Provence right before the shutdown, the summer before the shutdown, and they're doing some really cool stuff, including oak aging, doing a little bit of experimentation, and you're starting to see a lot of these higher-end rosés come out. A lot of them are also available in the current issue of Food and Drink that you can see, where you're starting to get $30, $40, $50 rosés. And this one, I think $25, but not one that I would bypass at all. I think in the
I agree.
And also then,
because it's like,
so what do you think about that?
Well, you know what? We had a wine, it's coming in at around $11, and this one is quite a bit more. But doesn't it, like, again, we're talking about the versatility of rosé with food, but I mean, it's also to the occasion, right? Like, I could absolutely see opening that, $11 bottle of wine, maybe some friends from my mom group come over and we're sitting around catching up, right? And perhaps it's date night, and we're doing a nice meal with, the family. Wouldn't that be perfect for a little bit more upmarket wine, a little bit more weight, a little bit more texture, maybe a little bit more elegant. I think you could say that.
I think that's fair because you know what? I always reckon it like this, where it's like the movies. Some days you go home and you just want to throw on, I don't know, Dumb and Dumber, right? You just want to have like an easy laugh, kick back. And that's what some wines will offer you unapologetically. And in fact, we need those wines in our lives.
Absolutely. I think we need them, especially right now.
Exactly. So these are your bistro style wines. These are the wines you bring along to a picnic in licensed areas, obviously. These are the wines that you want to have there. But sometimes, again, we're talking about breaking out the lobster and we're watching the sunset and we're gazing into the deep big eyes of our amore or all of our amores, whatever your situation is, and you're casually nibbling on the ear of your lover, maybe you want to have something that's going to be just as proper for the occasion. So That's where we start to get in these beautiful vintages and where we start to get into these wines that have, perhaps a few other tweaks to them, which warrants that price point. Perhaps it's the actual region, perhaps it's supply and demand. We should say, and we don't want to nerd out on this too much, so we won't, but different grapes require different farming techniques, and that requires a certain amount of investment, which then translates into the price of the bottle. Now, Deep Big Eyes also followed that up by saying, I guess there's an association, and thank you for talking about the elephant in the room, Deep Big Eyes, that pink wines are off-dry and sweet. All right, let's just nail that one on the head here. Let's get to it.
We'll get to it.
Let's do it.
You know what though, Erin? Like, that comes from a fair place. I mean, let's be really honest. In North America, we're very new to the rosé game, and we did not dip our toes into the proverbial, pink pond until Sutter Home had their white Zinfandel. And it was a fortuitous accident, and it happened. And it is an off-dry style. Or downright, quite a bit of residual sugar. And that's what really dominated the market for a very long time. And a lot of people still enjoy that style. And that's great. I've always said that there is a wine for every occasion, for every person, and that's wonderful. It's funny though, because you say that to someone from France or someone from Italy, and they're like, well, what do you mean it's sweet, right? They've been drinking rosé wine for generations, and it's just another wine, right? And you're seeing more and more of these beautiful dry styles in Ontario, and you have the selection is incredible. And they're from all over the world, America, Canada, France, Italy, Spain, all these incredibly dry styles. So you can't associate pink with sweet, or even the depth of color with sweetness. I've had very, very deep wines, colored wine, rosés, and very, very pale colored rosés that are both dry, and some of them, inverse, have been both sweet. So that's a real skin maceration isn't related.
Exactly. And I think that that's a valid point. I think we should say to people that if you are in Ontario, in our market, the LCBO will give you an indication. Now, it's not the whole picture, but it's not a bad indication. If you look at the price tags that are on the shelf talkers, at the very bottom right, there's something in brackets, and it'll have a number with a G/L. So it might say 2G/L or 18G/L or whatever that number might be. That stands for grams of sugar per grams of residual sugar per liter. Now, all wines, they may only have 1 gram. You need that for the balance in the wine. Otherwise, you're just drinking lemon juice or something. But what you want is, if you're somebody who's really fixated on dry wines, look for something that's 12 grams per liter or under. It's not the entire story, but that's a good route to sort of go by. But also, let's not, poo-poo the sweet wines, because there's a reason why some ice wines, so teintes, that's very sweet dessert wines, they're very classic for a reason. But these off-dry rosés, in this case, if you're eating some of those fiery foods, earlier we were talking about a summer curry, but let's say we're talking about some fiery foods, whether it be Thai or Mexican or Indian or Szechuan, whatever your fiery kind of habanero heat or jalapeno heat is, when you have an off-dry wine, that's going to go the distance to taming that spice. So there Absolutely. Truly is a time and a place for everything, where I think that's quite good.
I really like with maybe some spicy chicken wings. I've done that with a off-dry rosé. So delicious. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, I do want to be mindful of the time, and and William has asked he's asked about Prosecco Rosé, brand new.
Yes.
Brand new. And he's asking about the opinion that's surrounding that. I think it's a pretty exciting time to be Prosecco. I think there's only about 5 brands in the market, in the LCBO at least. It's either 3 or 5. I'm not exactly sure. So it's limited in terms of selection. But what I'm seeing for Prosecco fans, I would be very excited about it.
Very excited. And it just has Pinot Nero or Pinot Noir is how they get that little bit of pink to the wine. And they'll still be using Glera, or it used to be called the Prosecco grape, but Glera. But it's the Pinot Nero that's giving it the color. And I am all for it. I think it's a great addition to the LCBO. And I think that it will be absolutely delicious.
And it's just one more feather in the cap of Prosecco. It's, as you're right, William, it's brand new. It just became sort of approved or part of that DOC not too long ago. So I think it's just one more feather in the cap. Everyone else in the world is doing pink sparkling. Why can't Prosecco? So I would encourage you to give that a little bit of a whirl as well. Now, I want to make sure that we've answered everybody, but we are running out of time. So if you haven't had an opportunity to get your question answered, or if you're watching this on repeat, because this is going to be on the LCBO's channel, please still leave a comment or a question. Emily and I will be checking in over the next few days, as will the wonderful team at the LCBO, just to make sure that we've got you covered. We will not leave you hanging. So do type in those questions, and we will be sure to respond to you over the next few days or few weeks, whenever you happen to be seeing this, because we do appreciate the conversations that are happening right here. I think what we will do, though, because we have taken up enough of your time, we will say good night for now. I do want to let you know that on behalf of the LCBO and our trade partners, thank you for joining in and watching this. These wines, all 6 that we were talking about tonight, these are available at the LCBO right now, as are 40, get this, 40 different rosés from 11 different countries.
Incredible.
Talk about amazing selection. Used to be back in the day, and I mean like 5 years ago, you had a very limited selection, and it was only here for a couple weeks in the summer, and then it was gone. But now available all year round, different stuff in and out, absolutely fantastic. So I am very excited to see that development. But yeah, if you enjoy any of these wines, whether you order them online, get them curbside pickup, shop in the store itself, please do enjoy them responsibly. because we want to see that you are happy, healthy, and going to be joining us again. So everybody, my name is Erin Henderson. I am the founder and chief sommelier at The Wine Sisters. If you'd like, you can find me on Instagram, The Wine Sisters with underscores between the words, or on my own YouTube channel at The Wine Sisters or thewinesisters.com. So lots of places where you can see me, but I pop in and out here on this LCBO YouTube channel quite a bit. Emily, where can anybody find you?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram, Pearce, Emily J. It's Emily Pearce. And also please do check out org. We have a great scholarship, mentorship program going on there. And there's a lot of great free webinars, seminars for wine lovers of all levels of knowledge. So please do go and check it out.
Okay. Well, thanks for that, Emily. Once again, people, thank you very much for all of your time. Leave your comments, your questions. We will get to answering them once we see that they have come in. So I'm Erin, this is Emily, and on behalf of the LCBO and our trade partners, thank you so much. Enjoy your rosés responsibly, and we will see you next time.